Hey everybody, my name is Tavion Netters. I am CEO of Netters Marketing here on the Prosperity Show. And within this episode, you can expect a lot of digital content media tips, advice, and pointers on how to really stand out from your competitors to grow your brand to the next level.
Now, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, and wonderful folks from around the world to the Online Prosperity Show. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and here with a grin wider than Cheshire Cat, because today we've got a guest who's about to rock your digital socks off. Get ready to buckle up, because this promises to be one of the best episodes we have had in a while. Now, Tavion, how are you doing, my man?
Doing phenomenal, Prosper. How are you?
Absolutely. Now, obviously, our audience is wondering, who's this wizard behind the curtain? Now, tell us a little bit about yourself and the magic that you actually wield in the marketing space.
100%. So my name is Tavion Netters. A little background for me. I run a marketing agency called Netters Marketing. I've been doing marketing for going on about 7.5, 8 years. We primarily help online coaches, B2B businesses on helping them build a pre-qualification system for their business in terms of clientele, as well as automating their social pages to where clients are constantly coming in on repeat and on consistency to where they don't have to spend so much time on social media.
Fantastic. And this sounds all very techy and new age. How did you stumble upon this realm of work that you are now doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because marketing at first wasn't really a thing I ever actually thought about getting into until my family opened a screen printing shop. And they opened a screen printing shop, and they're like, "Hey, we don't really know much about this social media stuff or how to market ourselves. We figure since you're on the younger side, why not you take a crack at it?" So that's exactly what I did. I first worked with Facebook for a little bit, Instagram and whatnot, and we started getting more eyes, started getting more attention. And fast forwarding even more, interesting enough, I still didn't think like, oh, maybe I'll start a business one day. I never really thought about that too much until 2020, COVID and pandemic happened. But what really pushed me to learn more about marketing and start a business and practice and implement what we do now, it honestly just came down to what was the bigger vision of who Tavion wanted to be, 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Who was that person that I want to see in the mirror to reflect upon and think, wow, I am so proud of myself and what I've done and what I've accomplished. But truth be told, Prosper, the biggest thing of it all came down to, if there's one thing I enjoy when it comes down to marketing, is a lot of people, whether it's a business, coach, influencer, whoever it may be. I believe that every single individual in this world is unique. I truly believe that every individual deserves to shine their light, you could say. And there's nothing more than there's nothing greater, I should say, than wanting to help people get themselves out there to the right people and get themselves out there as much as possible, to show that light within themselves, whether it's business, personal, whatever that may be. So it honestly, it's a passion to help people just really, shine their light, you could say.
Absolutely. I quite like that, because each and every one of us is unique and is an individual. So we just all need to be amplifying all of those talents and personalities. That way, we're creating the world to be a better place. Now, looking at, what you sort of started off from, as a marketer, you would relate to this. Have you ever gone to a business and then you're trying to say, hey, we could help you with your marketing and things like that, and they say, oh no, we've got a cousin, we've got a son, or we've got a nephew of ours that is good with IT. So would you say you were that kind of person for your parents' business that usually annoys marketers?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like I said, even when it went back to the whole like screen printing when I first started, and then, there were times where, when whether it was a friend of a family member, I was that go-to for that. But then once I started expanding a little bit more into, wanting to help other people, it was kind of like they flipped the script on me. So like now I'm on the other side and I'm like, oh, is that how that feel? I'm like, and you sit here, you're like, well, I did this, I got the experience here, and all this kind of stuff. But that's where it's part of the process, you know, it's part of the process of just constantly building, constantly showing up, constantly developing and nurturing your skill sets and being able to continue to provide results for people for what you're doing. So, yeah, I definitely have. And it's interesting how even saying that out loud now, yeah, sometimes it feels like I'm sitting on, like I'm on the other side of the fence and I'm like, so that's what that feels like, you know? So yeah, I've definitely been there. It's interesting. So, but you know, especially when it comes down to, you know, business, you know, when people, you know, were to say like, oh, I have a family, a cousin, a friend, you know, who could do this, wherever that may be. I always say when it comes down to, you know, marketing, and I'll use, and the reason I'm doing air quotes is because a lot of people nowadays will, they'll throw something out there, they'll say, cool, but is that really marketing? And there's so many elements and key components to know, like, how do you actually hit these points for somebody to want to, you know, work with you, buy from you? But yeah, I've definitely been there many times.
Absolutely. It's a good thing you saw what I saw there. Now, had the family not started the screen printing business, maybe this journey of yours would not have looked like this. What were the other things or what were the options before?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, before I started my marketing agency, especially being as young as I was when I was actually developing my skills and just trying anything and everything, when I was in my, I would say like, you know, 18, 19, early 20s, things of that nature, I was getting my hands on so many things. The idea of, you know, entrepreneurship really sparked my mind, you know, between that, you know, that age gap. So just like most younger, you know, people around that, you know, younger people around that time, you know, I got my hands into learning how to invest and day trade, learning how to like, hey, how do you build a drop shipping store, real estate? I mean, everything that you could absolutely imagine wanting to get into. Because even when I was in college, because when I was in college, I was actually studying for a game design degree because I just grew up, loved playing video games. Ironically enough, now that I run a business, I'm like, you know, video game, I'm like, oh man, no, how like how ironic of that. You know, it's just like I went from always wanting to play video games, and now it's just like because I have these bigger goals I set out for myself, you know, you don't really pay too much attention to it. You know, you don't really think about it too much because your priorities shift and elevate. But yeah, I mean, if I had I not done marketing, I'll be completely honest. I know I definitely would have started some other business of some sort. And more than likely, if it wasn't that, it would be day trading because outside of marketing agency, you know, my marketing agency, I actually have taught people that in the past. I actually did that technically before I really actually started my marketing agency because before I started it, I was doing more freelance work. So I wouldn't say I had an agency at that time. But when it came down to like how do you, you know, how do people trade in stock markets, things of that nature, you know, I was teaching people, you know, online, I was hosting classes, things of that nature. So if I wasn't doing marketing, I feel like I definitely would have been more focused in that realm, for sure. But it's definitely been an interesting and wild ride. And it's actually I love that you asked that question because I actually kind of reflected on that last week. You know, when we had a pretty big win for the business, thinking, man, what would life be like had I not done this? You know, and there's so many possibilities of where that could go, but just to simply think and base it based upon personal experience and what I was doing around that time, I would definitely say my mind would have settled upon maybe day trading, if not some sort of business for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a lot of learning curves in all of these things anyway, because you just don't rock up to some platform and start day trading. You know, you gotta read the candlesticks. I don't even know how that works. So it's
Yeah.
things like that, you know, that you know, a lot of people have to learn. Now, you also transferred even the sort of gaming learning that you were doing now into marketing because gaming is a process and there's a lot of human psychology into all of this, and the part of marketing you work around is psychology, content, automation, email marketing. Now, do you see any parallels in what you learned, because none of that was wasted, you just transferred it into a whole different realm?
Yeah, 100%. Great question. Yeah, I mean, so that's the thing when it came down to like, you know, especially the shift from like, you know, going to school for game design. day trading and then getting to a marketing agency. One of the biggest things I learned, and truth be told, I'll even use day trading as an example. One of the biggest things to be successful with that is, like you were just saying, is psychology, marketing psychology. Game design, for that, a lot of mental effort. Let me start with that back in school. But it came down to building up your mental, building up, not necessarily you could say psychology. However, what I was able to, the parallel I would say I really got from that was more so the work ethic side of things, like how much time it really takes to make something for something to be great, and how much time do you have to do that to make that thing to be as great as possible. So that's really, I would say, the biggest parallel I definitely see from my time when I was in college to now in my marketing agency is you truly understand and even have an appreciation more so for the work ethic of what you put in and what you put out. And it feels good when, as I, continue to build my market, build my agency up, it feels good because it almost feels like, every client that we work with, or whatever that next, service or product may be, it feels like that next project. So having that discipline, having that focus, having that consistency and that work ethic definitely transferred over, because in the end of the day, you can look back at that thing you made, that project that you made, and say, I'm proud of how this came about. Or you may even be at the point where you're like, great, this does well here, but we need to make improvements here. So again, you just build a lot more focus. And I think a lot of it just comes down to solely what, like what lights you on fire, on the inside, and also understanding why is this important for you to do in the first place. And I think if you're able to understand those metrics there, that's where work ethic and everything can come into play more, I guess you guys, simpler in a sense in your favor.
Absolutely, and I quite like that. But what I quite find fascinating about your journey and who you're becoming and what you're working on right now is most of the things that you're working on are more on the traditional side of digital marketing. You know what I mean? The actual content marketing. People these
Mhm.
days, they don't want to write content. They just want to TikTok or the automation part of it. People just want to create an Instagram store and or a TikTok shop or something like that, just like really small bite-sized quick stuff. But there you
Yep.
are diving into email marketing. This is something that takes ages for people to actually grasp, landing pages and all that stuff, a whole lead generation system as part of your sort of offering. What attracts you to this side of marketing, and as opposed to the quick whiz bang type marketing that everybody else is doing out there?
Yeah, 100%. And that's the thing and it goes back to what I was saying when a lot of people are, with social media nowadays or whatever they want to market, they're kind of just throwing like what I like to call like a Hail Mary, like I hope that works, I hope that works. Now, in marketing, do you sometimes feel that way? In a sense, but you at least go with a strategy. You at least go with comprehension of point A to point B of this is the goal, this is the objective, and this is the outcome that we want. So honestly, when it comes down to this, again, it comes down to, for me, I would say, especially in terms of the more traditional marketing, like you're saying, the email funnel things of that nature. What we enjoy the most, I would say I enjoy the most personally when I work with it. And like we were saying, we help people like pre-qualify their leads, things of that nature. It is that understanding portion of how would this person within this niche, this target audience think? How would they respond? So that's actually why, and it's so interesting that you even said psychology earlier, because one thing I have told many, clients, prospects in the past, and whoever that may have been, is the real component, or one of the biggest components you're going to find in marketing for it to be as effective as possible, is you have to understand how, why, and what are going to make people respond to certain behaviors, certain actions, and want to, maybe whether it's following you, following the page, buying the product, clicking on that landing page, clicking on the funnel, putting in their, name and information to download the PDF guide on 10 steps, 10 steps on how to lose 30 pounds in 14 days, right? Whatever that may be. So in the end of the day, I mean, it's truly just understanding the grasp of marketing. And I think that all those factors of email, content, even ads, funnels, they all play in that sense, because what you want to do, especially when it comes to marketing, from a consumer side of things, they're always looking for conveniency, right? How can you make things as convenient as possible to still relay in their mind of why they're doing what they're doing in the first place, right? Why should they go from Instagram to now clicking this link to now putting their, name and email in to now watching this, 1 minute, 2 minute video? Now, I definitely will say there are times where people do definitely too much and it gets too much for the consumer, but inherently and coherently, you could say. I think really that's what I enjoy, especially on the traditional side of, especially with everything we do when it comes to marketing, is because it's like a puzzle, you could say, is you enjoy how this piece may work well with this piece. Oh, it doesn't work well with this one. Cool, we'll take this one. Boom, that worked out really, really well. So I think that's where the fun and honestly enjoyment comes into play when it comes to that.
Absolutely. And I think it was Albert Einstein that mentioned that if you're enjoying what you do, it ceases to become work. So
Yep.
now just obviously that's the reason you got that smile on your face. Now, well, when it comes to all of this stuff, we usually call people like yourself natives because you were born into the internet already, and things like the way that you already started and the way that you're already finding your way through and projecting yourself into the future and things like that. Now, what sort of changes have you seen since you now started becoming serious about business that you're like, whoa, wait a minute, there's so much that I still need to
Yeah.
sort of know, even though I was born amongst this, but there's still a lot that I need to catch up on.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things. I mean, and even what I would say is to all the people who are listening and watching, like these are things that I've reflected upon myself. The first being that I wish I'll say it like this: many times I wish I had started something sooner. You hear that many times. The internet, where it is today, is not where it was, 10 years ago or 15, 20. Similar, obviously, but like it's grown massively. But the thing about it I've seen as well is, a lot of people say, competitors here, left or right, whatever that may be. But what I found for many people, and even including myself, is when it comes down to wanting to, how I like to say, you stand out in a business side of things from maybe competitors, how are we different, things of that nature. You see that you have to get a little bit more creative. You have to be a bit more unique. You have to understand also when it comes to content, and I'm going to use, video content in this example. I mean, the human attention span, I mean, is significantly low. I mean, I'll say, to those who are listening, watching, and I know for me, it's like how many, videos, reels, whatever they may be, ads, you probably watch for maybe a second or a second and a half, and then you're on to the next, right? So I think the biggest thing I think people should definitely understand, especially from the time where the internet and social media, and even marketing is now from where it is then, is as things are going to constantly grow, as things are going to constantly, increase, there's going to always be more standards. There's always going to be that, great, what's next, right? We've seen this 100 times, 1,000 times, 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times. People are, and the thing about it is, and here's another key and a tip I would love to give to people too, is we as human beings are constantly curious. And I think that's also where it makes the fundamentals of marketing even more enjoyable. People are constantly curious. So when people nowadays, and this is where I find ironic, is you'll have people who are throwing these, you could say, quote unquote, wacky or, different, like very different ideas of like, oh, let's try this. And many people will say, like, oh, well, let's see what the thousands to tens of thousands to hundred thousands of people are already doing, right? Now, I do believe in the saying of, people say, don't reinvent the wheel that's already working. But ironically, what I always say is, use that wheel, but put your little twist on that. Because now, because again, going back to people's curiosity, now they see something a little bit different. It's like, cool, we want to focus on that. We want to give our attention to that. We want to see more about this and what that's about. So that's what's interesting, especially about in today's, internet and social media, is just how we shift from our thinking and expectations of, what, in a sense of what's being provided to us for us to intake as consumers and for us to even, utilize in our daily lives. But I mean, you see things going as far as like, AI, ChatGPT, Open. I mean, there's so many tools and features that's just, I mean, not only helping us, but again, it's increasing those standards. It's increasing those expectations. So that's honestly what I would say I could take away, especially from where we are in today's age for that, for sure.
Fantastic. And considering we're all sort of working in the same platforms, same workflows, and with the same outcome, it just presents a whole system where everybody's just doing the same stuff, like Me Too type marketing out there. And as you have said, so many people will just copy what best practice or what everybody else is doing. But you teach your clients the subtle art of differentiation. Now, this obviously
Yeah.
helps businesses to stand out in a sea of sameness. Now, what sort of tactics or strategies are you actually implementing, first of all, maybe for your business and those of your clients, just so that people can see what will be unique about working with you?
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, several factors. I mean, one, in the business sense of things, and this could even be, myself and everybody else out there who's listening and watching as well. When it comes out to standing out, one of the biggest things to think about is what is something that nobody has done yet, or what is something that hasn't been done enough of yet. It kind of goes back to that point where I was saying, especially once the internet started blowing up, you hear many people say like, "Oh, I wish I would have gotten, caught that wave sooner. I wish I would have done that sooner." In a sense, in today's society, take that same concept, right? Think about, so whatever niche you're in, again, whoever's listening and watching, whatever niche or industry you're in, take the time to really take a step back, doing some even, research as well, to think what's a common problem that many people are facing that's just not yet solved, right? And how can we make that better? And the best way in how I always say it, and I highly implore this not only on myself but other people, is when it comes to standing out, don't also settle for what you have already done. Don't also settle for what has already been achieved. So, for example, even though you've created an amazing service and amazing product, there's always room for improvement. One of my favorite shows, and I'm so glad you're even talking about, standing out and being unique. One of my favorite shows is Shark Tank. That's probably one of the only shows I watch because it's also still entrepreneur-like, so it keeps me, focused and thinking. But what I've noticed that those investors, those people who sit in those shares, they say, and they ask the same thing is, well, what makes you unique? What makes you different when you have all these companies that are in, a niche that there's many other companies that are doing? And they always love asking that question of like, what's different about you? What's unique? And a common answer, and even watching interviews of what they say of why they invested in that person, is because they see that they're constantly growing and they're constantly innovating and thinking, hey, this is already out there, but we have ideas to make this better because of X, Y, Z. So even when it comes down to our play of how do we help our clientele, how do we help our clientele in terms of standing out and being unique as well? A lot of that always comes into the market research. We are very, very heavy on it. A lot of times people will say like, oh, let's get some stuff going out day one, day two, day three, and, things of that nature. But I think it's very important to know, are you putting something already out there that people have already consumed and ingested in for themselves? And if they are, how can we give them something a bit different where they say, oh, this was a bit more enjoyable. This actually caught my eye. So a lot of it really comes down to understanding market research, seeing like what's already out there, what's being done, what's working well, and even if there's still quite a bit out there, what is working well and very successful, and kind of like that last point I was making about how, use the wheel that's working, but put your twist in there. Great. Now with your brand, what you're providing, you see that maybe this X company is providing, hey, we're going to get you, 10 clients a month. There's so many people out there say, right? We're going to get you 10 clients a month within 30 days, things of that nature. Great. How can you one up it and say, we'll get you 20 clients within a month, right? And on top of that, we'll help you build your website. And on top of that, we'll even help you put together your appointment setting team. So the constant thing that I like to say is if you want to stand out, outside of your service and products, it really comes down to the value that's being provided. How can you always constantly be a person of service? And how can you always think of new and innovating ideas? It doesn't mean that you have to start a whole new category. You absolutely don't have to start a whole new category, but just one simple switch and flip of here's a major problem that many people are facing, and here's what I've discovered to solve all this that's not out there yet. That's what's going to inevitably help you stand out more, especially when you get to the branding, to the marketing, and demonstrating how does it work on XYZ. That's ultimately in all those components of what I just explained is going to help you stand out and help you be unique.
Oh, absolutely. And what would be the best way that people can get a hold of you so they can maybe start on their journey, to start experiencing this awesomeness?
Yeah, absolutely. So, great way to reach me. I mean, multiple platforms. So, LinkedIn, Tavion Netters. So, Tavion, last name Netters, Netters. Instagram, same thing as well. First and last name. So, Tavion Netters. And then email is a great one as well. So, first and last name. So, Tavion Netters, 9898 at gmail.com, or you could also go to my website, tavionnetters.com, where you can learn more about us, see what we're about, see what we do and capable of. And we always like to offer even a free social media audit, how we like to say, where we go into people's businesses, seeing where they're at on all platforms or website, giving insight first, for sure, seeing like where they're at, and how we may be able to help them. And one thing that we say for businesses, and most businesses probably won't say this, but this is something that I stand on because this is what I believe can help people grow, and continually grow as successful businesses. When it comes down to people, we work with, we also the type of people where we necessarily don't really take anybody and everybody, simply because it's not a matter of like, oh, we think you're too good for you. It's we're thinking, hey, are we the best fit for you? I don't like to think in the selfish nature of I want to get all the clients because I want to make all the money. Because I truly believe, especially when it comes down to abundance of money, it's all out there. There's enough and plenty for everybody to become successful and do their thing. But that's really what that audit is going to be useful as well. Is not only giving you feedback, ideas, and how we could potentially help, but are we the best fit? Are we eye to eye? Do we relate, mindset wise, mentality wise when we come in together? Because at the end of the day, I want to always, make sure people are getting the best and right help.
Absolutely. And I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes below. Now, talking about abundance, you're man on a mission. You want to impact 1 billion people. Tell us a little bit about that and why anybody would want to sort of, join your bandwagon.
Yeah, 100%. Man, I'll just say it like this. There's no more better feeling than making people feel not only like loved, valued, and important, but seeing people being in their natural element, seeing people being their best selves. I truly believe that if we all came together and we all, did our part to show how similar of human beings we are, that even though we all have our, own paths, we all, in a sense, share a similar journey. We all laugh the same, we all cry the same, we all feel the same, good or bad. And that slogan, "Man on a mission to impact 1 billion," that's a lifetime goal of mine. Not like a 10-year, 20. That's just a lifetime goal for me, because after I hit 1,000, it's like, great, let's get to 10K. After 10K to 100K. So just constantly being able to chase after something. But in the end of the day, when it comes down to making an impact, it's all about making a difference. How can we make the world a better place? And a lot of it starts with love, kindness, and helping one another truly understand how much alike we are, how much we are really brothers and sisters in arms, no matter what the background may be, no matter what the culture may be. But truly, a lot of it just comes down to how amazing would it be to live in a world where everybody could be truly happy within themselves and what they're doing. Many times, many people will say, "Oh yeah, I like doing this," but why say you like it? Why not say you love it? I want to why not change the conversation when you talk to people? Oh, I love my bakery. I love my gym. I love my business. I love, being a pilot, right? Let's switch that to love, because the thing about it, at the end of the day, we all have this one life. Why not make the most of it to see how far we can go if we knew we couldn't fail? And the thing is, you only fail when you stop. So that's really my long-term vision when it comes down to, wanting to impact 1 billion lives is, how many people can I bring along and take with me to see their best versions of themselves, to be the happiest and most loved and that they've ever felt and been upon others as well.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you something, man. You now have to look for 999,999 other people because you've impacted this one person out of 1 billion. So kudos to you, man.
Appreciate it,
For all the
man.
work that you're doing out there. And there you have it, folks. A spellbinding conversation with the one and only Tay Netters. But wait, don't disappear into the digital ether just yet. I mean, if you want to relive this episode in and of itself, I know it went too quick. Just hit that replay button or share this episode far and wide. You never know who amongst your friends could be the next one out of 1 billion that Tavion can actually impact. And don't forget to subscribe to the Online Prosperity Show, because you never know who will be our next guest and what sort of insights they might bring to the table. Now, Tavion, I will put all the links so that people can start their journey with you. And I hope from the 2 people that have watched this video so far, one of them is going to be part of the 1 billion that you're impacting. So thank you so much for such
Absolutely.
a selfless, aspiration. And I really hope that, your endeavors in the future will be fruitful.
Thank you, Prosper. And again, thank you so much for having me on and being such an incredible host as well. I absolutely love what you're doing here, and I can't wait for this to be the #1 podcast. First of all, in Australia, but I know one day in the world as well. So I look forward to seeing that too.
Well, it's people like you that make it happen. It just doesn't happen on its own. So I really appreciate that compliment. And yes, you've heard it. Apple and Spotify and Amazon put this episode, especially the #1 episode with the #1 show going on. But I really appreciate your time that we spent today and your life story, your knowledge and expertise that you actually imparted with us now. And for those that are watching, please help me thank Tavion by actually subscribing to his website or joining him on his LinkedIn, so you can also be part of that 1 billion people he is impacting. Until next time, keep the magic alive, my friends. Bye for now.